Many people spend their entire lives trying to become a better version of themselves. A stronger self, a wiser self, a more confident self, a more healed self, a more spiritual self. The assumption is rarely questioned. It feels obvious that there is someone inside who needs to improve, someone who needs to heal, someone who needs to become more complete than they are today. Every mistake feels personal. Every criticism feels personal. Every rejection seems to say something about who you are. Every success strengthens the story of the person you believe yourself to be, while every failure threatens that story and quietly demands that you work even harder to protect it. Over time, life becomes organized around maintaining this identity. Thoughts, emotions, relationships, achievements, even spiritual practice begin serving the same invisible purpose, preserving the feeling that there is a separate me at the center of experience. It seems so natural that we rarely stop to examine it. Of course there is someone here. Of course there is someone thinking these thoughts. Of course there is someone living this life. But before we go any further, there is a question worth asking. Not as a philosophy, not as something to believe, simply as something to look at honestly. What if the certainty that there is someone here has never actually been examined? And what if what you call me is not the one experiencing life at all, but the very illusion this chapter begins to reveal? If there is one insight that changes the way we understand awakening, it is this. Ego is not an identity, it is a contraction. For most of our lives, we assume the opposite. We believe there is a person inside us with a history, a personality, preferences, fears, and wounds, and that this person is what we call the ego. From there, spiritual growth becomes an attempt to refine that person, heal that person, or eventually transcend that person. But what if we have been looking in the wrong place? This chapter invites us to look beneath the stories we tell about ourselves and into the body itself. Before there is a psychological identity, there is a physiological movement. The body tightens, the breath becomes shallower, the chest closes slightly, the nervous system withdraws from the openness of the present moment. Awareness, which was naturally spacious, begins to collapse toward a single point that feels separate from everything else. Only after this contraction has already taken place does the mind begin to explain it. It creates a story. This is who I am. I need to protect myself. I have to stay in control. I need to become someone. These thoughts feel like the cause of our experience, but they are not. They are the explanation the mind gives to a body that is already contracted. The story follows the contraction. It does not create it. This is a profound reversal of how we normally understand ourselves. We spend years trying to change our thoughts, hoping our lives will change with them. We try to replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones, negative stories with positive stories, self-judgment with self-acceptance. Those practices may bring relief, but they often leave the deeper structure untouched. Because beneath every story is a nervous system organizing itself around protection. The body has already concluded that it must narrow, defend, and manage experience. The mind simply builds an identity that makes those reactions seem reasonable. What we call me is often nothing more than awareness identified with a pattern of contraction. When this is seen directly, something begins to soften. You no longer have to spend your life improving the character you believe yourself to be. You become interested in something much quieter. Where in this moment is experience being held? Where is the body resisting life? Where is awareness collapsing into a center that feels separate? This is where awakening begins to move from philosophy into lived experience. You are no longer trying to perfect a person. You are beginning to notice the contraction that makes a person appear. And as that contraction softens, something unexpected is revealed. Perhaps the separate self was never an identity that needed to be transformed. Perhaps it was simply a temporary tightening within awareness, held for so long that it came to feel like who you are. This understanding begins to explain something that confuses many people on the path of awakening. They have moments, sometimes profound moments, when everything changes. For an instant, the sense of separation disappears. The mind becomes quiet. Life feels effortless. There is no longer a struggle to become someone, only openness, only presence, only the unmistakable feeling that everything is already whole. In those moments, it seems impossible to imagine ever returning to the old way of living. It feels as though something has finally been resolved. But then, slowly and often unexpectedly, ordinary life returns. A difficult conversation happens. Someone criticizes you. Plans change. Something is lost. And almost immediately, the familiar patterns reappear. Fear returns. Defensiveness returns. The need for certainty returns. Anxiety returns. The separate self, which seemed to have disappeared completely, feels alive once again. For many people, this becomes deeply discouraging. They begin questioning their awakening. Perhaps it wasn't real. Perhaps they misunderstood. Perhaps they haven't awakened deeply enough. So they begin searching for another experience, another retreat, another teacher, another insight powerful enough to make the feeling permanent. But this chapter offers a far more compassionate understanding. The problem is not that the realization was false. The problem is assuming that realization alone completes the transformation. The mind can recognize truth in an instant. It can see with extraordinary clarity that there is no separate self. It can understand that awareness has always been present. It can glimpse the openness that exists before every thought and every identity. But while the mind has seen through separation, the body may still be organized around it. The nervous system continues responding as though there is someone here who must remain protected. The muscles still tighten, the breath still shortens, the heart still guards itself. Old patterns of defense continue to arise, not because you believe the old stories, but because they have been lived for so long that they have become physiological. The body is simply repeating what it learned long before the mind understood anything about awakening. This is why insight, no matter how profound, often feels temporary. The realization comes, the contraction remains. And because the contraction remains, the experience of being a separate person continues to return, not as a belief, as a sensation, as a way the nervous system has learned to organize itself. This distinction changes everything. Awakening is not divided into those who understand and those who do not. It is the gradual meeting of insight and embodiment. Mental awakening is the beginning. It opens the door. It reveals what is true. But embodiment is what allows that truth to become lived rather than merely remembered. The chapter describes it beautifully. Mental awakening is the spark. Embodiment is the flame. The spark reveals what has always been here. The flame gently burns away the contraction that has hidden it. This is not something that happens through force. You cannot command the body to relax. You cannot think your way into openness. The nervous system unwinds through honesty, presence, and repeated contact with what it has spent years protecting. As the body slowly releases its grip, something remarkable happens. Awareness no longer has to struggle to remain open. It simply stops collapsing. The sense of a separate me begins to lose its solidity, not because you have defeated the ego, not because you have achieved a higher state, but because the contraction that once made a separate self feel real is no longer being continuously recreated. What remains is not a perfected identity. It is the quiet recognition that awareness was never confined to the contraction in the first place. And as the body softens, that recognition no longer comes as brief moments of awakening. It begins to feel like the natural way life has always been. If all of this is true, then the question naturally becomes, what do we do? The answer may be much gentler than the mind expects. For most of our lives, we've believed freedom comes from becoming someone better, a better thinker, a better meditator, a better version of ourselves. So even awakening becomes another project, another identity to achieve, another future to reach. But if the separate self is not an identity, but a contraction, then trying to improve it simply keeps attention focused on the very thing that is beginning to dissolve. This chapter offers a different invitation, not to improve yourself, not to get rid of the ego, not to force yourself into a state of presence. Simply become curious about what is happening in your direct experience. Notice where the body tightens. Notice where the breath becomes shallow. Notice where the heart subtly closes. Notice where experience is being resisted instead of received. Notice where life is being held at a distance. There is nothing to judge in these moments, nothing to analyze, nothing to correct. These contractions are not signs that something has gone wrong. They are simply places where the nervous system once learned that contraction was necessary. And because they were learned, they do not need to be fought. They only need to be seen. This is one of the quiet revolutions at the heart of awakening. Awareness itself becomes transformative, not because it is trying to change experience, but because contraction can no longer remain unconscious when it is met with honest presence. The body begins to discover, moment by moment, that what it has been protecting may never have required protection at all. As that recognition deepens, the grip begins to loosen, not dramatically, not all at once, quietly, almost imperceptibly. The imagined self is not defeated, it is not conquered, it is not transcended through discipline or extraordinary effort. It simply softens, like a fist that no longer needs to remain closed, like armor that is finally recognized as unnecessary. With every moment of honest contact, awareness expands a little more, because it is no longer collapsing into the old pattern of contraction. The center that once felt so solid begins to lose its certainty, not because something is being taken away, but because something false is no longer being continuously held in place. What remains is not emptiness in the sense of absence, it is openness, a spaciousness that does not need a center to exist, a presence that no longer organizes itself around defense. And in that openness, you begin to discover that freedom was never something you had to create. It was simply what became visible when the contraction that concealed it was finally allowed to relax. As we come to the end of this first chapter, perhaps there is nothing here you need to believe, only something to quietly notice. Perhaps awakening is not the discovery of your highest identity. Perhaps it is the gentle recognition that there was never a separate identity to defend in the first place. The self you have spent years trying to improve, the self you have tried to heal, the self you have worked so hard to understand, may simply be the body's long-practiced habit of contracting around experience. If that is true, then awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is about allowing what has always been unnecessary to soften. As that contraction begins to relax, nothing essential disappears. Your ability to love remains. Your capacity to create remains. Your relationships remain. Your humanity remains. What falls away is only what was never carrying life to begin with. The constant effort, the endless defense, the quiet burden of believing there is someone who must hold everything together. And in the space that opens, something remarkably simple begins to reveal itself. Life has always been here. Awareness has always been here. Being has always been here. Nothing new has been added. Only the contraction that obscured it has begun to loosen. And perhaps that is where the real journey begins, not with becoming more, but with gently discovering that what you truly are has never needed to become anything at all.